Doing this stage of the job indoors, so if you hear any noises in the background, it's just the boiler in the house. I've taken all of the cam box bolts out the top here, and then it's just a case of lifting this part off. And things look okay. Right, so next thing to do is just clean all this oil out of here and pull the buckets out. I've got to make sure these stay in order as well before everything goes back together again. We shall carry on, we'll see what else we find. That's all my buckets with the associated shims inside them, all numbered so I know where they go when everything goes back together. I'm not going to check any of the valve clearances at the moment because it might be different when the head's being checked over, so there's not much point. It won't tell me anything. Now I've cleaned some more of this oil away. You can see on this one, it's, I don't know, you can't really feel much of anything. And on this one, same thing, it's just, I mean, oh, okay, I've got gloves on now, but I've tried it without gloves on with just my fingernail. And it's not, you know, there's that very obvious line there, but it doesn't catch your fingernail, so I don't know. The machine shop will know better than me. I don't really, I don't know what I'm looking at, other than it shouldn't look like that. But that might also just be normal wear, given the mileage. The other thing with the valves is I've noticed some of the valves have sort of, they're not perfectly smooth on top. That one, you can see how the light's catching it. But again, you can't feel anything with your finger, so, or your fingernail. And I know that's not engineering stuff, but maybe this is normal wear. I really don't know. I don't like working on engines. But next job, valve compressor. Let's pop these out and see what's going on. I've been having a bit of a job with these. Whenever I've done this sort of work before, it's not been too bad, but this time, I don't know, everything just seems to be fighting me. Yeah, normally everything just pops out, but I'm having to actually use more force than I would like to get everything apart. And it's just getting the spring compressor tight enough. Now it might be because of my health as it's been at the moment. I'm lacking in strength quite a bit, especially in my hands. So it might just be that, but yeah, there we go, that one's actually gone quite well. So you tighten up until you hear the pop, and that's when the collets at the end have actually broken their bond. I think they're called collets. There's these two little conical things that go in the spring cup anyway. You just go far enough to loosen them off. Just going to fight me a bit longer. Now I didn't bring you in for all of these because it's not the most riveting viewing, even by my standards. There we go. So you just have these little conical bits, and there's two, and that locks your valves in place. One nice thing is they're steel and the head's aluminium, so you can just use a magnetic screwdriver to get them out. Alright, let me slacken this off. Open the tool up, and just one more valve to go. There is a lot of carbon build-up in here, which suggests that it has been running too rich, and I did suspect it might be, but I couldn't seem to get things to set up any better. And I had it running really nicely recently, and then it randomly blew the head gasket with no warning. But having seen that weird shrunken looking head gasket, I wonder if that might have been the problem. I genuinely don't know. Right, yeah, there we go. And then to keep everything together, I just thread the whole assembly back together and put it in the box with the shims and buckets, and that makes sure all my pieces are aligned. So yeah, apart from some carbon build-up, which I sort of expected, the ceiling faces actually look quite clean. Now I will be grinding everything in when we're done, obviously, because you do that, but yeah, there's no like smoking gun in here. Apart from that scoring, the minor scoring on these bearing faces, I've not found anything that's jumping out at my inexpert eye as being a problem. So I don't know what's going on. There we go, this is all stripped down, ready to send to the people at the garage. I've got all of my innards in the box, all numbered and in order, ready to go back in once I've cleaned everything, which I'll do as I reassemble. The bearings here, now, as I probably mentioned before, the Princess is a bit weird in that this is the head and a cam box, so these bearings and the head itself are all one piece. They're all cast in one piece of aluminium, so they serve as your bearings as well as the whole head. And I don't know what is normal to look at wear-wise, because I'm not an engine type person. I don't like doing these kind of jobs, which I know is a bit weird for somebody who's into old cars. But I can't, you know, there's a little bit there, but honestly, these surfaces, they seem okay. I'll get the machine shop to look at it. I'll take the camshaft with me so they can look at that too, and they'll give me their professional opinion. I might need a minor regrind, they might need to put some bearings in, I don't know. They'll know better than me. I can't cast judgment, and also you can't cast judgment on the internet because you're not here looking at it, you can only guess. So we'll see what comes of this, and we'll see what's happening. There are very, very obvious signs the car has been running rich. There's a lot of carbon deposits in here, like in the exhaust ports here and that sort of thing. It's not as bad as it's been in the past. The deposits on the valves are not terrible, but it is more than I would have expected. So I'm wondering if it's got the wrong spark plugs in it, which is possible, given the condition of them. I'm wondering if maybe the spark plugs needed replacing a little while ago, and I'm not getting a good clean burn, which is why everything's a bit sooty in here. Again, when everything goes back together, it'll be new stuff going in, so hopefully we'll have a decent baseline. For now, I can't do anything with this. I've got friends going to give me a lift with this to the machine shop. I might take my spare head as well, just in case, and we'll just have to wait and see. It'll take longer for me than it will for you. I'm down to doing this last shim here. I've got 7 out of the 8 are reading a valve clearance of about 0.3 millimeters, as near as makes no difference between them. There's going to be quite a few background noises going on at the moment. It's very windy, the boiler is on and off, so you just have to put up with that. I did find that the shims that this car uses are the same as Triumph Stag, and similar system. It's a bucket, and then inside the bucket is a little metal disc, and that is your shim. And you do some maths, and that helps you figure out what size shim you need. I've ordered from Rimmers, not sponsored obviously, the 2 smallest sizes that they do. It's quite expensive to get these shims. These two and postage was 15 quid. I'm going to try the smaller one of the two to begin with and see what we have for a gap. Got the clamps down, got the camshaft rotated so that this is sticking up. And we'll start with a 0.3 feeler gauge and hopefully we'll be somewhere near. Oh, that is perfect. That's exactly what I want. Just a bit of drag. Excellent. That means this is all set. All of my valve clearances are as close as I can measure with feeler gauges, 0.3 millimeters, which means I can get this all built up. Marvellous. But before I build this, I've got to get this camshaft end seal off, which is actually leaking because the seal's gone quite hard. And that's going to be a challenge, because to do that, you have to unbolt the camshaft. Now, these clamps are quite tight, but they're not tight enough to stop the camshaft moving. So I think the way I did it before is I clamped this in my vise and I undid it that way, I think. So I'm going to give that a go and hopefully that works. I'm sure there's a better way of doing this. It's also very windy today. Oh, blimey. I think I need the breaker bar. Well, this is proving very difficult. I do hope I don't have to take this to the engineering shop just to get that bolt off. I'm going to struggle with this off camera, see if I can get it fixed. Did it with a little bit of help from my friend. Right, and that's why, because that's the only... Oh, wow, that is really loose. That's not really sealing at all. That shouldn't be sloppy like that, so that's definitely where one of my oil leaks was. But yeah, you have to do that to get this seal out, and it's quite a difficult one. Right, I'll go and get the replacement seal and we'll install that. That's a much better fit. Good, we can now get everything back into that head and back together, but yeah, that will hopefully cure one of the big oil leaks that the car does have that I know about, because that's very dead. The engine, well, the head at least, is now together. I can't actually put it on the car today because it's too windy, which I know might sound a bit odd, but where I work there's no shelter from the wind, and it's strong enough that it will shut the Princess's bonnet while I'm trying to work on it. Not because the rams on the Princess bonnet are weak or anything like that, it's just that windy. So rather than risk dropping something or making a mistake, I'm just going to leave that for now. The head is as together as I can do it on the bench. Now, if you're wondering why the valves stick out, that's because we have this set to the correct timing mark there, so that these valves won't interfere with the pistons, which is very important. Before I put everything together, I didn't record things because I was greasy hands and I didn't want to get that all over the camera. But I've used this assembly lube on all of the bearing surfaces and the camshaft, anywhere that it touches metal to metal, to make sure that that's all good. And then for the two halves of the cam box here, I don't use silicone sealant. I was advised not to do that some time ago. My friend Ada, who knows a lot more about engines than I'll ever know, she said to use Well Seal. And I've used, it's by a company called Stag. Not sponsored here or anything, these are just the products I'm using. And this stuff is brilliant. It's horrible to use, it's very sticky, and it can dribble a little bit after you've put it in. But unlike silicone sealant, if there's too much of this on a join, it will just mix in with the oil and disappear. It's not going to block your oil ways or anything like that. And I've never had a problem with this leaking oil, ever, with that stuff. So I would say that's pretty good stuff. The end plate here is on with the proper paper gasket, which you can't really see, but trust me, it is in there. And I have rotated this a few times on the camshaft there, just to make sure that everything is free moving, nothing is binding. I can do it very easily by hand, and all the valves do pop in and out like they should, and they seat nicely, so everything seems to be working properly. Last thing I did was reinstall the temperature sender, and this is now ready to go on the car. I'm hoping, really hoping, the next stage goes smoothly. I need a day of better weather than we have at the moment, so it'll be a few moments for you. It might be a couple of days for me, but the next stage is going to be sticking this on the block after I've cleaned the block, new head gasket, and then we'll put the distributor in, we'll put the spark plugs in. I prefer to do the spark plugs once everything's on the car rather than before. Fuel pump will go on, I'll try and get that sealed again. Eventually I'm going to replace that with an electric. I think it will be better for the oil leak situation. I've never managed to get the mechanical fuel pump on this to seal for more than 70 miles, no matter what I do. We'll have one more go and we'll see if I can get it this time, but I'm not hopeful. I'm waiting on a radiator cap for this, and I've got to find the hose, which I'm pretty sure I still have for here, to connect to the radiator. But that bit's done. I'm glad that bit's done. It's yeah, it's been a job. I've given all of the block surface here a clean as best I can. There's some discoloration because it's steel, so you do get black marks on it. I'm not machining this. That would mean pulling it out the car. I've just cleaned it as best I can to get all of the old residue of the old gasket off there. And now I'm just cleaning these threads out for the head bolts, because some of the cleaner I used, obviously, is a liquid, and if it gets in these bolt holes, it can prevent your head bolts from torquing down properly. I've just cleaned this one out, so we'll see if there's anything in the next one for you to see. Nope, looks like that one's clean. I'll go through the rest and I'll bring you back if one of them goes splurge. Finally found one that actually has some liquid in it, and as you go down you see the little air bubbles coming out, and it just pushes all of the fluid out of the hole, and this will prevent us having problems later. It's not that much, it probably wouldn't have caused a big problem, but it's worth doing to make sure everything torques down properly. Just back it in and out a couple of times, just to push anything out that might be in there. I think we're good. We're pretty much ready to put the head gasket and head back on now. The machining shop pulled the dowels out of the head. I'd forgotten to do that, so I've just popped those back in where they go here. They just help locate the gasket, keep it in place. The other suspicion I had is that the car's burning a bit of oil, and that's been confirmed by what you can see on the manifold here. There is a little bit of oil getting into the manifolds, so that is probably the piston rings, which need renewing, but as I've mentioned before, that is an engine out job, and at the moment I can't do that because I'm about to move house and everything. It doesn't burn enough oil that it's a problem, but it's burning enough that it needs addressing within the next few thousand miles, which we will do. Okay. Big job now is just getting the head plonked on and then connecting everything up, and I just kind of don't want to do any of this. But we'll get it done and then she'll be running again soon. There's no multi-layer gaskets here. The Princess just uses one of these sort of single layer fibrous ones, little metal inserts. This one's quite old because it says made in England. But it is in as new condition. There's no corrosion on it, it's not bent or damaged in any way, it's just been in stock a very long time. And I'm hoping that it's a good gasket. Unfortunately, there's only one way to find out, and that's by fitting it. I'll go and get the head, and we'll plonk that on. Well, the weather is against me again. Yesterday it was far too windy, and then it was raining, and today it's just very suddenly got very, very cold, to the point that it's actually painful to do stuff. But it's not all bad. The head is back on the car. I haven't torqued anything down yet, it's just on. It's lined up. And I got a cap for that. They're very readily available online, which is great. But as I was looking around, I noticed that on the fuel line. And this fuel line isn't very old. So it's that usual modern rubbers problem. I think there's enough to actually just chop the end off and shorten it short term while I order some new hose. But not thrilled about that. What's left to go? Torque the head bolts. Get the cam belt on, which is harder to do when things are cold, unfortunately. Oh, I'm going to have to take the auxiliary belt off as well, aren't I? Because it goes behind that. Bother. That just means retensioning the alternator yet again, which is an absolute pain. Housemate might be able to help me with that one, it's easier with two people. Exhaust manifold, bolted back on with a new gasket, carburetor, etc. all back on there. Then I've got to drain the oil. Wow, I'm very scattergun here, aren't I? But yeah, it's getting there, but the weather is against me. When it gets cold like this, it's tricky for me with my health issues. So I'm going to go and get warm for a bit, and we'll come back to this later.
that's where we'll have to leave this episode. I've got another one coming, so if you want to find out what happens with this engine, and the car in general, then please do subscribe. I put videos out fairly regularly here, and this job does get finished. When I did this I was quite unwell, it was very cold, so it was very slow going on this job, but we do get there. There's links in the box down below so that you can find more information about what I do. If you are watching this on Patreon, thank you very much. Obviously you get early access and you already know how this story ends because you've seen what happens closer to real time than YouTube does. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and yeah, engine work, it's not a thing I enjoy. See you next time.